Star Wars Young Jedi Knights Diversity Alliance Chapter 12. In her private chambers connected to the throne room grotto, Nola Tarkana sat in a long polished table carved out of lava rock. The day outside was broiling hot in one direction and disastrously cold in the other. The Ryloth cave warrens remained at pleasant, constant temperature. Dimness was an ever-present companion. Across from her, adjunct advisor Havrak shuffled his paraphernalia, preparing for his daily presentation. The Shishaven Wolfman stared at the electronic datapad on which he kept the most secret records of the Diversity Alliance. With clawed fingers, Hovrak punched buttons, calling up entries into an encyclopedia of alien species. Nola watched with interest. The records had become an obsession with the Wolfman. Holographic images gelled into focus from his catalog, and the adjunct advisor discussed their progress, referring to the new entries he had compiled. The sharp image of a broad-shouldered, long-limbed Cyclops rotated to show the brute features from 360 degrees. An Abyssin, said Horvath. Not very smart, but violent and brutal. Once trained, they are great fighters. We have quite a few of them already in our ranks, and I believe that with a little effort we could get most of their species to join the Diversity Alliance. Nola nodded, taking the information as Horvath called up the next entry. Cha'a. The small reptilian species. She saw a squat creature, its head mounted low on its shoulders, if its neck had retracted into its spine. The slitted eyes were set wide apart. Delicate scales covered a sloping head that looked like a snake's. Willy, ambitious, untrustworthy, though the Chaw can be counted on to look after their own interests. Nola nodded, tapping a claw against her newly resharpened teeth. Then we must convince them that is loyal to the Diversity Alliance is their best interests. My thoughts exactly, Horvath said, with a snarl. Cheval Cha'a have been tricked into joining Luke Skywalker's Jedi Training Center, but I believe that most have no great love for humans and their domination. Nola stroked her one-attacked head-tail, feeling a tingle of sensations. She had two designs across the smooth greenish flesh. The stuttering pain from the tattoo needles had been excruciating in the just intensely sensitive skin of her brain appendage. Every touch of the ink-filled stinger needles a throb of painful exhilaration. And she had endured it. Few tweak males could tolerate such prolonged agony, and now everyone who saw her tattoos would not help but admire her endurance. It added to her power. Nola's other headtail, which had once been so long, so supple, so beautiful, had been blasted off in the violent battle when she had overthrown her slave master, killed him and his henchmen, and then made her escape. Although losing a headtail was a severe handicap to Twilix, Nola Tarkona had survived. In the twitching stump, she had implanted an optical sensor that could pick up images from behind and relay them to her brain, thus increasing her deadly mystique. This Twi'lek woman, who had overthrown a male-dominated culture, slaughtered her masters, and launched a powerful politic movement, literally had a eye in the back of her head. Shivan, Hovrak continued, a species easily recognized by their startlingly long faces and huge heads. The display showed the creature whose chin hung down nearly to its ankles. Many humans find them unsavory, particularly ugly, but the Shevan view themselves as optimistic realists interested in their own well-being. Nola smiled. We are interested in the well-being of all alien people. Hovrak pointed to an image on the datapad. Unfortunately, we have no representative from the species, despite our propaganda campaign. Then I believe we ought to work harder to recruit at least one Shevan, Nola said with a faint frown. Even if it takes a bribe. Yes, Horvath said, growling deep in his throat. Nola Tarkona's disappointment in his failure to recruit a Shevan came as a personal defeat to Hovrak. I believe I shall concentrate my efforts on that species. A Gamorrean guard strode in and stood shuffling at attention. Because they were intensely loyal and able to follow orders so long as they were simple enough, Nola had found the porcine guards to be good henchmen. She didn't for a minute expect that they would betray her. They were too stupid to think of such a thing. Lunch ready, the Gamorrean said in a phlegm-filled voice. Horvath froze the image on a datapad and stood up, his fur bristling. Good, I am ready for fresh food, wet food. He snarled in anticipation, flexing his claws. Deciding to stretch her legs as well, Nola followed the wolfman out to the main grotto where the holding cells dotted the walls. Another newly arrived prisoner, she asked. Saliva had already begun to run in the wolfman's mouth. Yes, a fresh one. Fresh dawn from Concord Dawn, convicted of cheating at Sabak. Cheating at Sabak? Nothing more? Nola said they sent him to you. On Concord Dawn, cheating is a capital offense. Horvath's black lips curled back away from his fangs. And laws are laws. Moving with stiff, tensely coiled muscles as if he were stalking prey, Horvath strode toward one of the cell doors. Besides, he snarled over his shoulder, one of the senior magistrates there, a Deveroni, is sympathetic to our cause. He opened the cell doors, clenching and unclenched his clawed hands. From inside the chamber, a weak voice, a deliciously human voice, wailed, "Oh, please let me go. I'm innocent. I didn't know cheating was a capital offense. I'll never do it again." Horvath simply snarled. The voice changed abruptly in tone. What are you doing? Stop! No! The voice ended with a scream. Then one of the Gromalian guards slammed the cell door so that Nola didn't have to listen to the wolfman eat his lunch. Nola waited patiently. She decided not to take a meal now. Not yet. She usually ate alone in her private chambers, dining on food she had prepared herself. It was a habit she developed. Not that she expected any members of the Diversity Alliance to poison her, no, she just knew how fiercely loyal they were. She liked it better that way, more self-sufficient. Nola would have liked to dine with her half-sister, if lovely Ula had survived to see the glory days. Nola Tarkona had brought supreme triumph to the Twi'leks, especially to the females of the species. But not before her half-sister had been captured as a slave, her teeth landed flat, and her memories of family and clan hammered out of her. Poor innocent Ola had been brainwashed, stripped, beaten. Her entire life had become one of servitude. Bib Fortuna cast his lot with the highest bidder and acted as supreme henchman to buy Ola, and with no pride in himself or his people. Fortuna had purchased Ola and other dancing girls, dragging them against their will to serve Jabba the Hutt. Ola had served indeed, and served well. Nola had dug deep to find her details of her half-sister's time in the Hutt's palace, even receiving spy hollow images of how Ula had danced with grace when she moved, her greenish skin glistening with sweat, her head-tails flying about like a wind in the storm. Ula had given the Hutt everything they had wanted, until one day, on a whim, Jabba fed her to his pet Rancor. The imprisoned monster had devoured Nola's half-sister in much the same way that Horvath snacked on the hapless scam artist in the cell. Oh well. At least the scam artist was a mere human. Nola felt a twinge of sadness at the memory of her half-sister, imagining how together they could have proven themselves to the galaxy at large. But soon she saw the grief turn to anger. Nola had always found anger to be a more productive emotion anyway. Finally, the wolfman emerged from the cell, wiping his muzzle and his fur with a self-moistened napkin. Then he tossed it away along with the stained apron he wore to protect the Diversity Alliance uniform. He meticulously combed his black-brown hair and, using a long claw to pick a shred of food between his sharp teeth, straightened his adjunct advisor uniform. Now, esteemed Tarkona, shall we return to our work? Yes, Nola said, stroking her single head-tail and walking back to the private meeting chambers. We have only a standard hour until I depart to the Grand Chamber in Corona Zed. If we do our work properly there, we shall gain converts throughout that system. Let's hope so, the wolfman said. I don't believe the Shromans are on our list yet. They returned to the private chamber. Horvath punched his electronic datapad. Now then, let's see. Another alien appeared on the holographic projector, a blue-skinned, goat-like creature with a trio of eyes of stalks protruding from his forehead. The grounds are easily distinguishable by the three eyes. Traditionally unreliable, easily bribed, quickly addicted to drugs or liquors, but shrewd and often underestimated. If we recruit several, they could infiltrate the seediest cantinas in the galaxy. The adjunct advisor continued through the alphabet.